What really happens in our brain while we sleep? You disappear for a third of your life. Every night, something strange happens to the human mind. You close your eyes. The world fades. Your body lies still, and for the next several hours you disappear. Not physically, but consciously. For roughly 1/3 of your entire life, your brain enters a state where reality dissolves, time behaves strangely, and the mind begins doing things scientists are still trying to fully understand. You dream. You forget. You remember. Your brain reorganizes memories, repairs damage, processes emotions, and sometimes creates entire worlds inside your head. But here is the disturbing part. Even though we spend thousands of hours sleeping, the exact purpose of sleep remains one of the greatest mysteries in neuroscience. Why would evolution force every living creature to become unconscious and vulnerable for hours every day? Why would the brain shut down awareness while the body continues functioning? And perhaps the strangest question of all, is the brain actually resting when we sleep, or is it secretly working harder than ever? This is what really happens in our brain while we sleep. And the deeper scientists look into sleep, the more they realize something unsettling. Sleep is not simply turning the brain off. In many ways, it may be when the brain does its most important work. The brain doesn't turn off. Most people imagine sleep as a kind of shutdown, a nightly pause, a biological power-off mode. But modern neuroscience tells a very different story. When we fall asleep, the brain doesn't stop working. In fact, some areas of the brain become more active than when we are awake. Brain scans show something surprising. While your body is still, your brain begins switching through different phases of activity, almost like shifting gears inside a complex machine. These phases are known as sleep cycles, and they repeat several times throughout the night. Each cycle includes different stages of sleep, and each stage appears to serve a unique purpose for the brain. Scientists generally divide sleep into two main categories: non-REM sleep and REM sleep, and understanding these stages is the first step to understanding what sleep is really doing inside our minds. Stage 1, the border between worlds. The first stage of sleep is extremely fragile. It's a strange moment where you're not fully awake, but not fully asleep either. Your breathing slows. Your muscles relax. Your thoughts begin drifting, and sometimes something even stranger happens. You may feel like you're falling. You may suddenly jerk awake. You may hear or see brief hallucinations. This stage is often called the hypnagogic state, and many researchers believe it is one of the most unusual states of consciousness the brain can enter, because here, reality and imagination begin to blend. Some scientists suspect this is the state where many creative ideas, strange insights, and even certain mystical experiences originate. Artists, inventors, and writers throughout history have described capturing ideas while drifting into sleep. It's almost as if the brain, at this boundary, loosens its normal rules. The strict logic of waking life begins to soften, and the mind starts exploring. But this is only the beginning, because once the brain crosses this border, something deeper happens. Stage 2 of the brain begins cleaning itself. As sleep deepens, the brain enters stage 2 sleep, where consciousness fades further and the body becomes more stable. Your heart rate drops. Body temperature decreases. Eye movement stops. But inside the brain, something incredibly important begins. Electrical activity starts forming patterns called sleep spindles and K complexes. These bursts of brain activity appear to be connected to memory processing and learning. Researchers believe that during this stage, the brain begins sorting through the information you collected throughout the day. Important memories may be strengthened. Unnecessary information may be discarded. It's almost like the brain is organizing a massive archive. But perhaps the most surprising discovery came only recently. Scientists found evidence that during sleep, the brain may actually wash itself. A system known as the lymphatic system becomes far more active during sleep. This system flushes waste products and toxins out of brain tissue, including substances associated with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. In other words, while you sleep, your brain might literally be cleaning itself, which raises a disturbing possibility. Sleep deprivation may not just make you tired, it may slowly poison the brain. Stage 3 of the deepest sleep. Eventually, the brain enters what is known as deep sleep. The stage is sometimes called slow wave sleep. Brain activity slows dramatically. Large, slow electrical waves move through the brain. This is the stage where the body performs many of its physical recovery processes. Muscle repair increases. Growth hormones are released. Immune function strengthens. Energy is restored. But something else happens here that scientists still struggle to fully explain. Deep sleep seems to play a critical role in emotional regulation. People who are deprived of deep sleep often become more anxious, more impulsive, and more emotionally unstable, which suggests sleep may act as a kind of psychological reset, almost like the brain is recalibrating itself, clearing emotional overload, rebalancing stress systems, preparing the mind for another day of reality. But just when the brain reaches its deepest quiet, something extraordinary happens, because the next stage of sleep looks nothing like rest. REM sleep, when the brain becomes active again. After cycling through deeper sleep, the brain enters a state known as REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. This stage is where most vivid dreams occur, and strangely, brain scans reveal something shocking. During REM sleep, the brain can become almost as active as it is when you are awake. Certain areas involved in emotion and imagination become highly active. Meanwhile, parts of the brain responsible for logic and critical thinking become quieter. That imbalance may explain why dreams feel so strange. In dreams, impossible things seem normal. Time bends. People appear from nowhere. Memories blend with imagination. The brain becomes a storyteller without limits. But there is an even stranger detail. During REM sleep, your brain temporarily paralyzes your body. Your muscles shut down almost completely. This condition is called REMatonia, and scientists believe it exists to protect you, because if the body could move freely during dreams, you might physically act them out. In other words, the brain creates an entire world inside your mind, and then locks your body in place so you can't follow it. Why do we dream at all? Dreams remain one of the biggest mysteries of sleep. Scientists have proposed many theories. Some believe dreams help process emotions. Others believe dreams help strengthen memory. Some researchers think dreams may simulate dangerous situations so the brain can rehearse responses. And some believe dreams might simply be the brain trying to interpret random neural signals. But there's one fact that remains undeniable. Humans have been fascinated by dreams for thousands of years. Ancient civilizations believed dreams were messages from gods. Philosophers believed dreams revealed hidden parts of the mind. Even today, neuroscience has not fully solved the puzzle. Why would the brain generate entire experiences while the body is unconscious? Why simulate reality during sleep? And why do some dreams feel so meaningful while others feel chaotic and meaningless? The answers remain unclear. But what scientists do know is this. Sleep is not passive. It is not empty. It is not wasted time. Sleep is a complex neurological process that may be essential for memory, learning, emotional stability, and brain health. And the deeper scientists study it, the more they realize something surprising. Sleep may be one of the most important biological processes in the entire human body. Part 1 closing. In Part 1, we explored the hidden activity of the sleeping brain. We saw how sleep cycles through different stages, each performing crucial tasks from cleaning the brain and strengthening memories to regulating emotions and repairing the body. But in Part 2, the mystery deepens, because scientists are beginning to discover something even stranger. Sleep might not only repair the brain, it might also change how consciousness itself behaves. Lucid dreams, sleep paralysis, night terrors, and the possibility that during sleep, the brain may access states of awareness we barely understand. Part 2. Sleep is not just rest. For centuries, people believed sleep was simple. A biological necessity. A nightly shutdown. A pause between two waking days. But modern science has revealed something far stranger. Sleep is not inactivity. It is one of the most complex neurological processes the human brain performs. Every night, while the body lies still, the brain reorganizes memories, stabilizes emotions, clears toxic waste, and generates entire realities inside our minds. But even after decades of research, one unsettling truth remains. We still do not fully understand sleep, because once scientists began looking deeper, they discovered something unexpected. Sleep does not only repair the brain. Sometimes it changes consciousness itself. The mystery of lucid dreaming. Most dreams happen without control. You drift through strange scenes. Places change. People appear and disappear. And somehow everything feels normal. But sometimes something unusual happens. The dreamer becomes aware. Inside the dream. This phenomenon is known as lucid dreaming. In a lucid dream, a person realizes they are dreaming while the dream is still happening. And once that realization occurs, something remarkable becomes possible. Control. Dreamers may begin flying, walking through walls, changing environments, summoning people or objects. Essentially, the mind becomes both the dreamer and the architect of the dream world. For years, lucid dreaming sounded like fantasy. But scientific experiments have confirmed that lucid dreaming is real. Researchers have even communicated with lucid dreamers during sleep by asking them to move their eyes in specific patterns while dreaming, which means something extraordinary is happening. The sleeping brain is capable of self-awareness. Consciousness appears to wake up inside the dream, and that discovery raises a fascinating possibility. If awareness can exist inside a dream, then consciousness may not depend entirely on waking reality. Sleep paralysis, when the mind wakes before the body. If lucid dreaming is one of sleep's most fascinating states, sleep paralysis is one of its most terrifying. Many people have experienced it at least once. You wake up, your eyes open, you can see the room, but you cannot move. Your body refuses to respond. Sometimes the experience lasts only seconds. Other times it feels much longer. And for many people, something even stranger occurs. Hallucinations. People report seeing figures in the room, hearing whispers, feeling a presence nearby. Some describe pressure on their chest, as if someone is sitting on them. Throughout history, these experiences were interpreted as supernatural events. Demons, spirits, night visitors, but science now understands what is happening. During REM sleep, the brain temporarily paralyzes the body to prevent us from acting out our dreams. Sleep paralysis occurs when the mind wakes up before the paralysis ends. In other words, the brain is still in dream mode while the person is awake. The result is a strange overlap between dream imagery and waking awareness, a terrifying mixture of two realities. This state reveals something deeply unsettling. The brain can blur the line between dreams and reality far more easily than we realize. Why sleep deprivation destroys the mind? If sleep performs so many critical functions, it's not surprising that sleep deprivation can become extremely dangerous. When humans are deprived of sleep long enough, the brain begins to malfunction. Memory deteriorates. Reaction time slows. And emotional stability collapses. Hallucinations may begin. In extreme cases, prolonged sleep deprivation can even become life-threatening. One famous experiment in 1964 involved a teenager who stayed awake for 264 hours, more than 11 days. By the end of the experiment, he was experiencing severe cognitive problems, paranoia, and difficulty speaking. The brain was struggling to maintain basic mental stability. This tells us something important. Sleep is not optional. It is not simply about feeling rested. Sleep appears to be essential for maintaining the integrity of consciousness itself. Without sleep, the mind begins to fracture. Reality becomes harder to process, and the brain loses its ability to regulate perception and emotion. In other words, sleep may be the process that keeps the mind from falling apart. Do other animals dream too? Humans are not the only creatures that sleep. In fact, nearly every animal on Earth has some form of sleep cycle. Birds, mammals, reptiles, even some insects enter states of reduced activity that resemble sleep. But the most fascinating discovery came when scientists studied animals during REM sleep. Dogs twitch their legs. Cats move their paws. Some animals even make small sounds. Their brain activity suggests something remarkable. They may be dreaming. Studies have shown that animals possess sleep cycles almost identical to humans, which suggests dreaming may not be uniquely human. Instead, dreaming may be a fundamental function of complex brains. Perhaps the brain uses dreams to simulate experiences, practice survival, process memories, or simply maintain neural stability. If that's true, then dreams may be a biological tool shared across much of the animal kingdom. A nightly simulation system built into life itself. The most disturbing possibility. The more scientists study sleep, the more one possibility becomes difficult to ignore. Sleep might not simply be a break from consciousness. It might be a different form of consciousness. During dreams, the brain generates entire worlds. People exist. Places appear. Stories unfold. And yet none of it physically exists. Still, while dreaming, those experiences feel completely real, which raises an unsettling question. If the brain can generate a convincing reality during sleep, how certain can we be about the reality we experience while awake? Some neuroscientists argue that both waking life and dreaming rely on the same fundamental process, the brain constructing a model of reality. In waking life, that model is heavily influenced by sensory input. In dreams, it is generated internally. But in both cases, the experience of reality emerges from the brain. In other words, consciousness itself may always be a kind of simulation. That idea challenges everything we think we know about perception. Because if the brain is constantly constructing reality, then sleep may simply reveal what the mind has been doing all along. Final thought: the brain never stops. Sleep is not silence. It is not emptiness. It is not wasted time. Every night, while the body rests, the brain enters one of the most complex biological processes known to science. It cleans itself, repairs itself, reorganizes memories, stabilizes emotions, creates entire dream worlds, and possibly explores states of consciousness we barely understand. We spend roughly 1/3 of our lives sleeping. Yet the sleeping brain remains one of the greatest mysteries in neuroscience, because when we close our eyes each night, something extraordinary happens. The world disappears. The mind begins its hidden work. And somewhere in the darkness of sleep, your brain becomes the architect of another reality. Thanks for watching what really happens in our brain while we sleep. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. And tell us in the comments, what is the strangest dream you've ever had? Because every night, your brain may be doing far more than simply resting.